Hey everybody, I am Joe Tobiason, Washington State elopement photographer based in Seattle, and today I'm going to teach you how to hack DX codes. So before we start doing into DX code hacking, maybe I should go over a quick thing of what is the DX code and why would you want to hack it. So I'm going to pull out this roll of Kodak Color Plus 200 and we're going to use that as my demonstration real quick. As a side note, like oh. Okay, maybe that actually was really easy. I always thought those were hard to pop open, but that just, interesting. DX code is these things of squares that are right here on the inside of your, or on the outside of your film canister. Now, the point of these is that this code can tell your camera what type of film you're having. So that makes it a lot easier. Something like this, like my Leica M6 here, this is a manual one. And so when I put new film in, I'd actually want to go into the camera here and adjust this knob, and that would be enable me to set that ISO manually. Once I'm able to do that, the internal light meter will operate accordingly to help me find the right exposure. And this is a little bit of an older camera, so as time moved on, they moved into other cameras that were a little bit more intelligent. And so if you could move up to something like this is a Canon EOS 3, and this one also is able to then read that information, and I can do it. But this being a little bit more advanced model, I could put it in and it would read that information, but at the same point I also could overwrite it. So when I say overwrite it, why would I not want to shoot it at this information? This is the whole point of it, is that it's saying this is what it's supposed to be, this is what the film was designed for. Why would I not want to do that? Well, there's kind of three different reasons that I can think of. The first is if you want to push the film. So that is to say that you want to underexpose the film and then overdevelop the film, which allows you to shoot it in either faster shutter speeds or lower light situations, those kind of things, and bring that out. It also adjusts the contrast of the film. And so with that, you're saying this 200 film, you're going to pretend it's 400 film. You're going to pretend it's 800 film and then do that down the road. Or you could pull the film, which is the exact opposite. I'm going to take this 200 film, I'm going to pretend it is 50 film, so that's 2 stops overexposed, but then I'm going to develop it for less time, so then it'll balance it out. Or probably the most common one is that I want to overexpose the film. And so with that, it's pretty common knowledge that film retains the most information in the highlights, but if it's in a dark area, it means that like literally not enough photons have hit the film that there's enough interesting information in there. So a lot of people will go through and will try to overexpose things, or will expose directly for those shadows in order to balance it out, to make sure all that information is there, because they know that more likely than not, the film will not blow its highlights. You don't have to worry about that going away. And so with that, a lot of times you'll overexpose by a little bit of time. And that's probably the most common use of adjusting the film. So again, if I just have this regular roll of film here, I can throw it into my EOS 3, I can just close it. And then once I turn it on, I actually can manually set the ISO to whatever I want. So with that, there's no point in DX hacking. It can do it all itself. The one that I would want to do it on is if I was using something like this. So this is an Olympus Stylus Zoom 140, a very basic point and shoot camera. But with that, it's a very basic point and shoot camera in that it is kind of supposed to be basic and simple and stupid. And it doesn't want to give you that many options because this is not necessarily aimed at professional photographers. This wasn't aimed at people who would want to make those kind of changes. That's what those premium point and shoots are for. Those are the other options. And so with that, this will automatically read the DX code that is on the outside of this. And so the way it's reading it is it's wherever it is silver, that is saying that it's a metal to metal contact, and it's going to read the code. And whenever there's the black, it means it's been painted over, and so they don't have that metal to metal contact, and therefore it can't read. As I was saying with this one here, because I don't have film in this camera, so I can open it up and show you that inside there are these metal contacts in there, and those metal contacts will tell the camera how many, which ones are making contact. We'll be able to make that DX code stand out and be able to tell the camera which type of film is inside. There's also the second row over here that on some of these cameras will tell the camera how many photos are on the roll. Now this one, I know it doesn't have that same thing. It only has the code that reads the ISO. So I don't really care about that. now let's get into the hacking part of this. There basically are three ways that I think are the most obvious ways of hacking your film. The first one is that if you just want to reset the film and then all you have to do is make it so that you're not making that metal-to-metal contact. The thing is, most of these point and shoots, if they're unable to make any sort of a contact on there, they revert to assuming that it's 100 film, which something like this is actually kind of ideal because I probably only want to overexpose this 200 film by one stop, which means I'm going to use it to have it pretend that it's 100 film. So the easiest solution with that would just be to take a little bit of Scotch tape, just like so. All I do, take that, and I'm simply going to cover up the DX code with tape. That's it, that's all I had to do, just like that. Now, if I put this in here, we can test it out. I can put it into this camera, the one on here. And I'm using this one because I can use it as a tester to see if my readings are right. I put it in there, close the door, and this one, for some reason, thinks it's 125.
Hey, real quick, future me stepping in. I realized later what's happening is that camera has a memory, and so it just is remembering the last time I'd manually set the camera, I'd set it to 125. And so by the fact that it couldn't read, it's just reverting back to whatever the last manual setting was.
So, needless to say, just covering it with tape. That's your most simple option. But let's say I wasn't trying to take a camera from like 200 film that I was trying to do. Let's say I was using 800 film. So then suddenly, if I'm putting that in there and I'm trying to take 800 film, I'd probably only want it to think that it's like 400 film or something like that, which there's two issues why I want to be precise about that. Obviously, if I put it on there and it was 800 film and the camera thinks it's 100 film, it's going to be overexposed by 3 stops, which that's kind of becoming a lot. But also, that's going to then slow the shutter speed down. That's going to use the flash more often. That's going to, because again, this camera at that point thinks it has 100 film. So if you're gonna go out in kind of a twilighty time, the camera's gonna be like, oh, it's twilight, it's dark, let's use a flash. Whereas if you had 400 film, the camera might be like, it's twilight, we're probably okay. And so with that, you might want to use something that will allow you to set your film speed specifically. So with that, there are 2 ways to do that, but either way, the first step is going to be to get rid of the DX codes that are already on this thing on here. So with that, all I use is I just use a little bit of sandpaper. And the finer the grain sandpaper you can have, the better, just because you don't want to scratch it up too much. But I mean, yeah, don't use like 60 grit or something, but like anything over 100 you'll probably be fine. But if you have some 200 grit sandpaper laying around, that's great, just because it's finer, it prevents scratching. It's also like less of that metal scratchy sound, which I don't know, might drive you crazy. So anyway, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sand off these 2 boxes here on the top real quick. Now that's clean, I have sanded that off, and you would see if I put this in here, it would have complete metal-to-metal contact all the way through. So the 2 ways to do this are either going to be to buy the stickers that you can get and put those on there that will make that same DX code, which you can get them on eBay, you can get them on Amazon, I think, and you'd just be able to put them on there. Just know that you're making sure you're lining them up on there, because those stickers are strategically placed so they would to prevent that metal-to-metal contact and let you pick out the ISO that you want. That said, those stickers are generally only going to be in like the main ISOs of the 100, 200, 400, something like that. And it might be annoying to keep buying them and all those kind of things. So what I usually do to get a very specific ISO that I would like to use is I just use nail polish. And all I do is I just take that nail polish and I put it onto the code. Now, real quick, I'm gonna look up so this is 200 film. Would like it to be 125 film. So with that, I'm gonna quickly pull up the DX code chart, which will be linked in the description below, and you can also just find it on Google really easily. And I'm gonna be able to look up what 125, what the DX code would look like, and then be able to paint that on there. So now that I've looked that up, and you can see here, looking at the chart, where the 125 is, and you can see that this first column, don't really care about, and then it is DUP, on, off, on, off. And so those are of the 5 options that we have to work with, the 5 different squares. So that will be what we need to paint. So it's on, off, off. So all I have to do is just take a little bit of this nail polish and I'm just gonna paint it on there. Color doesn't matter. I'm just simply using the first one that I found in my partner's bag. And so I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna repaint that one. I probably didn't need to sand it off. And that, and that. And that right there is what we're looking for. Personally, usually when I'm doing these, I end up doing like a handful of these at once, just because it takes time and it's kind of annoying. So it's at least do 3. Like if you got a 3-pack or a 5-pack or whatever, do all of them at the same, just because it saves you time. But cooking showed this and I did one a little bit earlier. So I'm gonna take this, which is the same. You can see here it is on, off, just like so. And I'm just gonna slap that into our good old friend, the EOS 3, just to make sure that we're doing this right, which is really nice to have this camera laying around. And turn it on, sure enough, it says that it is ISO 125. So that's what I would do to anything that I want to make sure I set it to a very specific thing. Anyway, I hope that was really helpful, and I hope this video isn't too long for something that's actually super duper simple. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and have a great day.